Andrew, joining us now because we have a big day tomorrow in the NHL. And, of course, every day is a big day with baseball as we are getting closer to opening day. So why not have somebody on that can talk about both because he covers both. For on Pattison, our man Ant SanFilippo joins us. Ant, good morning, man. How are you?
Love coming on a show with two Andrews. That's a good thing.
Look, it makes it easier for people. That's why we do it. They don't have to say which one of them is talking. You can just say Andrew's talking, and it makes things so much easier. Now, you're going to be doing the balancing act because we're going to go back and forth Phillies and Flyers with you because you cover both for on Pattison. Yeah. But let's start with the Flyers because that's more of the immediate talking point. The trade deadline is tomorrow. I have to ask you first before we start talking about players who could be out, who could be in. Do the Flyers have any belief in the back of their mind that they could still compete for the playoffs?
Depends on when you say the Flyers. Are you talking about the entire organization? You talking about who's in the locker room? I think the answer is a little bit different depending on who you're including.
Sure.
Do the players and coaches believe? They do. Do I think management believes? I think that they look at it and go, well, it'd be nice if they made a run, but we're not going to operate like we are going to make a push for the playoffs. So I don't think you're going to see Danny Briere tomorrow make additions to try and help the team get over the hump and get into the postseason.
And I know we're a few days removed from it, but I wanted to get your impressions on what you took away from Andrew Painter's couple innings out there.
Well, look, that's a good start, right? I mean, it was only 2 innings. It was clean 2 innings. He looked good, and that's all you can hope for at this point in spring training, right? I think as we progress, I think his next start is Saturday. We'll see what that looks like. That one will probably be 3 innings. See if he can keep doing what he gave you the first couple of innings, and then he'll probably go again next Friday, and maybe that one gets up to 4. And so I think each start is going to be a progression, and I think we're going to learn a little bit more with each start. But for the first start of spring, for the first time facing some major league hitters, a few major league hitters, I think that went probably as well as you could have expected.
Look at how you went from Flyers management to Andrew Painter's Grapefruit League debut. That's how I know you are a pro.
Yeah, but absolutely. I've been doing this long enough, boys. I've been at this game for 28 years. I mean, I know what I'm doing.
Damn right you do. All right, I have 2 questions about the Flyers trade deadline. Let's start with who you believe is as good as gone for the Flyers before tomorrow's trade deadline.
I don't have an answer of that. I don't think anybody is as good as gone. I think there are 2 guys who, in my mind, are the most possible, but I think both are 50-50 or even slightly less than 50-50 to go, and that's Rasmus Ristolainen and Bobby Brink. Now, is it possible that there's another guy like a Carl Grundstrom further down the lineup or a Garnet Hathaway? Yeah, those guys could potentially get moved too. I don't know if that moves the needle at all. But as far as trades that people would be interested in discussing, it's Ristolainen, it's Brink, and I think if I had to guess, I'd say Brink is more likely than Ristolainen. And I know that that's weird for people to hear because all that anybody's talked about for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, ever since the Olympics and how great Risto was playing in the Olympics was, the Flyers got to move Risto and get a first-round pick. And this and that. When you see what's being offered for right-shot defensemen in trades from around the league, it's a 1 plus a player that's a prospect that's almost NHL ready or is NHL ready. And I don't think Danny Briere is going to accept less than that for Ristolainen. So unless he gets that, I think he's going to hold on to him, and there's a real chance that happens. I think Brink, because you have a logjam at wing, and you look at what's coming, you have Porter Martone coming, you have a kid down on the Phantoms, Alex Bump, who's played really well, probably deserves a shot. And, by the way, coming back next season, Tyson Forster, you probably need to clear a spot in the top 9 on the wing, and I think Bobby Brink is the most easily replaceable player.
All right, and so the follow-up, you say there's nobody as good as gone. Is there any potential surprise trades where the Flyers get a call, much like the A.J. Brown discussion we've been having today, where the Eagles can't say no? Is there a player where you think teams are interested in where the Flyers go, oh, wow, we can't say no to this?
Yeah, I mean, outside of the guys that I just mentioned, no. And the reason I say that is the NHL trade deadline is a little weird in the sense that rarely do guys with like term on their contracts get moved, other than maybe a year. Like if you have one more year or whatever, okay, fine. But rarely guys with longer term get moved at the deadline just because it's so tricky to navigate the salary cap in season. Do I think that there are conversations about players that are taking place now that is groundwork being laid for maybe the summer? That I think is possible. And so I bring up a name like Owen Tippett in that regard. I think that with Owen Tippett has, I think it's 5 years left, maybe 6 years, $6.2 million on his contract. Like that's a guy that you can look at and go, okay, let's have some conversations now and let's revisit it in June right before the draft, because I think that there's a possibility. Again, like I said, they have a log jam. They're going to have to move at least two wingers. I think he's the next one after Bobby Brink.
And back to the Phillies, now that we're a little deeper into Grapefruit League play, do you get a sense of which player or players are front runners for one of those final roster spots?
Well, it's a good question, because I think this whole, not that I thought Johan Rojas was going to make the team, but I think that the looming, if he gets suspended by Major League Baseball, that could impact the roster. Well, it will impact the roster because it will open up a 40-man spot, and the Phillies will be lacking center field depth. When you really look at it, I mean, they really only have the kid Pedro Leon, who they picked up in the offseason, but he's not really a guy. Like if Justin Crawford doesn't work out, let's say he struggles and he's not ready for Major League play, you don't really have a backup option. So I think that last player may be outside the organization right now. In camp, Brian De La Cruz has looked decent, but he's not really a center fielder. He's more of a corner guy these days. And you also have Dylan Moore, who's can't hit, but he can play 7 positions. So, that versatility is important. So, like, there's that possibility as well. And then you never know. I mean, there's other guys that are injured. Like, I look at a guy like Gabriel Rincones, who a lot of people were talking about. He could be a platoon outfielder, but he's been banged up, hasn't really gotten started in camp, and I think that might set him back a little bit, so he might not have a shot at that opening day roster. So I think it's somebody who's not here right now.
All right, last thing for you, Ant. We appreciate the time as always. Sticking with the Phillies, yesterday Aaron Nola pitched against Team Canada. It was a good line. I don't necessarily care about the line. How intrigued are you by the velocity that we saw by Aaron Nola so early in the season?
Well, I think he had to. So the one thing, and I would say to everybody is like, take a pump the brakes on that just a little bit. He has to build up a little bit faster because he's pitching in the World Baseball Classic for Team Italy, right? So he needed to get slightly ahead of where he would normally be at this point in camp. So it's certainly a positive, right? You obviously like to see that velocity uptick. And the way I look at Aaron Nola is this: he can't be as bad as he was last year. Like, that was the worst season of his career. The injury, of course, mixed in there. Like, he's not going to have a 6 ERA this year. Yeah, I can go out on that limb and tell you he's not going to have a 6 ERA. Is he going to get back to the guy he was before that? Nobody knows. But even if he gets back to, let's say, an ERA of, mid-4, like 4.5, that's a significant upgrade to your pitching staff over what you had a year ago. And even if that, because he's technically going to be your number 4. And if your number 4 guy is giving you, quality start, 6 innings, 3 runs, like that, he's keeping you in the game. That's good for the Phillies. And he could be better than that. But I'm just saying, I think that the baseline is he could at least be that. And I think he will. I think you're looking at a little bit of a bounce-back season for Aaron Nola.
And appreciate the time, man. Keep up the great work. And tell that guy that you do that podcast with we said hello, okay?
Will do. I'll pass it on this afternoon.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Ant. We appreciate the time. And SanFilippo joining us here on Kincade and Salciunas does the podcast with Mikey Miss.
That's right. Yeah.